Lunaverse, Episode 8, by Rainbow Double Dash. Wither of Smoke, by Frizzy Orange. Chapter 4. Trixie was already sitting at a table outside Barry's when Pokey Pierce arrived. She had a glass of blue soda mix sitting on the table next to her, and she was enjoying a muffin, the spoils of her expedition to Ponyville's post office. Pokey, for his part, only had streamers and confetti decorating his bowler hat to show for his trouble. He also got to eat a cupcake, but he wasn't about to let Trixie know that. He sat down across from the mayor, under the shade of the table's parasol. Using his simmering silver magic, he took off his hat and shook it free of paraphernalia. "So, how's Pinkie Pie?" asked Trixie, before taking a bite of her muffin.
"Ridiculously energetic,"
the stallion answered with a sigh. "Only ridiculously? She must be under the weather," mused Trixie. "Did you manage to get something from her, or did you just stammer while being lost in her sparkling green eyes?"
"That joke's getting a little thin, Trixie. Besides, I kept her down that road in the past, and all I got out of it was a face full of pink taco,"
said Pokey, shaking his head. "Okay, I did not need to know that," said Trixie, turning away in disgust. Pokey's forelegs went up in indignation.
"I meant that literally. Our only date at Magical Delight ended with a food fight."
Trixie sighed in relief, but then blinked in confusion. "Wait, since when are tacos pink?"
"Since Pinkie likes frosting on her tacos. Pink frosting."
"Pink frosting? That pony is nuts," said Trixie, earning a nod from Pokey. "Every pony knows you put chocolate frosting on the tacos," she added, this time only getting Pokey to recoil in disgust. "I gotta try that." Sonata, "So should I." "Anyway, I don't want to know anything about what you do in private. You or anybody else," she finished, sticking her tongue in disgust. The stallion rolled his eyes at his boss's antics before he continued the conversation.
"Anyway, Pinkie didn't know of any pony new in town, or any other orange Pegasus. And for your information, her eyes are blue, not green. Was your little trip to the post office any more successful than my journey to Sugar Cube Corner?"
"I solved the case of the missing breakfast," said Trixie, pointing to the muffin floating in a shimmer of blue light by her head. "It's a new recipe I suggested to Ditsy a while back. I call it the word chain muffin. It has bell pepper, peppercorn, and cornflour in it."
"Okay, I did not need to know that,"
said Pokey, turning green around the gills.
"How can you eat that?"
"Simple, like this," said the mayor, taking a bite and taking her time to slowly chew in plain view of her assistants.
"You two comedians should take your act on a tour. You'd make a fortune,"
said Raindrops, landing beside the table with an amused smirk on her face. "That's what I said yesterday," replied Trixie in a mock outrage.
Pokey chuckled. "Well, maybe next time. We're already playing detective today. So, how much have you heard, Rain?"
Raindrops sat down next to the two unicorns. "Enough to deduce neither of you jokers got anywhere with your little errands."
"You have sharp wit, my friend. Trixie should take lessons from you,"
the male unicorn replied with a chuckle. The female unicorn, for her part, ignored him. "Yeah, Ditsy did not know any Pegasus in Ponyville matching the color of their feather, or hadn't seen any pony new in town either." "Speaking of feather, the more I think about your Pegasus theory, the more I think it doesn't add up," began Raindrops, furrowing her brow. "None of the witnesses heard anything remotely like thunder, and the skies were pretty clear. How could a Pegasus start a fire using magic without a lightning bolt?" Trixie put her hoof to her chin. "Can't some Pegasi actually create electricity out of thin air?" "Some masters could use friction between their body and the surrounding air to cause static buildup, similar to how ion charges build up in clouds, but those masters are pretty rare. I'm not sure there are more than 5 of those alive today. Plus, that to stars would still cause a peal of thunder to be heard."
"Seems like Raindrops does rain on your parade, Trixie."
Trixie glared. "I didn't see you come up with anything better, Chuckle Cult." At that point, a voice came from behind Trixie, making her jump in surprise.
"Good evening, Representative Luna Moon,"
said Sirius on it. Trixie turned to the inspector and gave him an uneasy, awkward smile. "Mr. Audit! Oh, what a surprise! What brings you out here?"
"I found a damaged file in the town hall, and I needed to double-check the date for the copy in the residency archive. I was surprised to find your office locked and empty,"
said the stallion in a dry tone. casting Trixie a disapproving glare. "Well, you see," began Trixie, a bead of sweat forming on her forehead.
"We're on important business for the sake of the people of Equestria. We are investigating the recent strings of arsons," explained Pokey. "Ponyville is too small to have a dedicated investigator, so we have to fill in. Mr. Audit, this is our friend Raindrops. She is one of Ponyville's volunteer firefighters."
"Charmed,"
said the inspector, giving Raindrops a curious nod.
"Isn't this sort of work usually outsourced to licensed private investigators?"
"I have a license,"
said the unicorn. "Since when?" asked Trixie and Raindrops at the same time. Pokey shrugged.
"I found the form for it while cleaning up. I figured it would be fun to have a PI license, so I sent it in."
"I heard of these arsons. So far, nothing very valuable was targeted,"
said Sirius Auden, looking at the still flustered Trixie.
"I certainly hope that this is not some kind of scheme you cooked up to make Ponyville appear more dangerous than it really is. It would be insulting for both of us."
Trixie was taken aback by this sudden accusation and stammered, before being cut once again by her assistants.
"Please, Trixie isn't clever enough for this kind of scheme. Besides, it would be fairly stupid because arsons, and compensations thereof, don't fall under the jurisdiction of the Royal Equestrian Public Safety Commission anyway."
Raindrops chuckled. "Are you saying she's too dumb for it, or not dumb enough?"
Pokey shrugged. "A little in column A and a little in column B,"
he said, earning himself a killer glare from the mare in question. Sirius Auden coughed politely in his hoof, interrupting Raindrops' second bout of chuckling, and spoke up as he turned towards his briefcase.
"Yes, quite. Well, let's put that matter aside for now. I have the papers I need double-checked here with me in my—"
It took a second for every pony present to realize that Sirius Auden had stopped talking mid-sentence. All three ponies turned to look in the same direction as him. "What's wrong, began Trixie, only to stop as well. Perched on Inspector Odd's briefcase was a peculiar bird. It was small, not much bigger than a sparrow, bright orange with a red tail and crest, sported a ridiculously oversized beak that would have looked more at home on an adult parrot than the chick appeared to be. The bird sat there, staring with eyes that looked like two golden orbs. The ponies and birds seemed to stare at each other for quite a while, but in reality it was only about 4 or 5 seconds. Then, with a loud the bird seemed to explode in a wave of fire detonating the briefcase. At once the ponies reacted and spoke up.
My briefcase!
Arsonist! It's a phoenix! Grab it! The Pokey was the first to react to that order, pouncing toward the little phoenix chick still perched on the burning briefcase. Sadly, the bird was too fast and it flew off, leaving Pokey to leap on top of the fire. With a yelp of pain, he started to roll on the ground to put out the flames. Raindrops took off as fast as he could after the little bird. Trixie in full gallop behind her.
"My briefcase!"
said Sirius Auden again. Pokey left him with the Sin Zion and took out the chase as well. Carrot Top was whistling a merry tune as he exited Blossom Forth's shop and headed across the street to Bonbon's candy shop for a little hello. Her bags were heavy with her supply of her favorite shampoo, and nothing could spoil her day. That's when a small orange bird, tiny wings beating faster than a hummingbird's, flew like a bullet right past her. She recoiled and yelped in surprise. "Oh! Out of the way, CT!" shouted Raindrops, apparently chasing the bird down the street. Raindrops flew past Carrot Top at a speed that the farmer had rarely seen her Pegasus friend achieve. It was nothing compared to the likes of Rainbow Dash, or even Cloudkicker or Thunderlane, but it was much faster than her usual speed. Carrot Top stumbled out of the way, following Raindrops with her eyes. A few seconds later, Trixie, closely followed by Pokey Pierce, barreled past the Earth Pony at full gallop, both apologizing to her while they did so. Carrot Top was thrown off balance and landed on her haunches. She sighed and looked in the direction of the chasing trio. "Something tells me I don't want to get involved," she said, to no pony in particular. Despite her head start, Pokey had managed to catch up to Trixie, and was actually in the process of passing her by. He didn't seem very bothered by the full gallop, while Trixie herself was already panting. Trixie was never much of an active pony, preferring to spend her free time sitting down. Pokey, on the other hand, had the habit of running laps around town every morning, and he was quite fit compared to most other unicorn stallions. He had made fun of her sedentary lifestyle more than once, but she hadn't really given it much fault. After all, Pokey marked her pretty much all the time. At some point, he just started the background noise. The Phoenix swerved onto a side street, but Raindrops was hot on its trail and didn't get distracted. Trixie and Pokey easily kept up with her as they weaved between buildings. Trixie suddenly became aware of a piece of music coming from behind her. She chanced to glance behind her and found Pinkie Pie, photograph snapped to her back, smiling at her. Pinkie, what are you doing? Asked the unicorn. Making sure she wasn't running into anything. Helping! Simply answered Pinkie. Trixie decided the best course of action was to ignore the pink pony. The trio of the pursuing pony and their pink tag-along emerged back into the Ponyville marketplace, where they started the day's investigation. The market was a lot busier this time of day. The phoenix flew right above the head of various ponies. It started to release blasts of flame, setting fire to hats, tarps, and other knickknacks. Raindrops kept up with the pyromaniac bird easily enough, but Trixie and Pokey found themselves faced with a panicked and confused town. We'll never get through, said Trixie, panting.
I can get through anything,
replied Pokey, as his horn began to glow with a silvery light. A beam of light flew into the crowd from his horn. Surprised ponies leapt out of the way, creating a cleared path for the two unicorns and Pinkie Pie. Pokey offered apologies as they galloped through the crowd. Meanwhile, Raindrop spotted one of her fellow volunteers in the crowd of onlookers, just as the phoenix flew above him and nearly sent his blonde mane to fire. Luckily for the town stallion, he managed to duck in time. Coconut! Ward the fire chief! She said, flying at full speed.
You gotta do that,
replied the surfer pony, saluting with a hoof. Once again, the chase took the bird and ponies to the back alleys, between the colorful buildings of Ponyville. The bird once again tried to lose Raindrops by quickly swerving between the buildings, but the Pegasus would have none of it, often threatening the bird with following hard for trying to burn down her town. The distance between the two was reduced by the minute. While Raindrops wasn't very fast, no pony could deny she had stamina.
We're gaining it! It's getting tired,
said Pokey. Trixie wanted to reply that it wasn't the only one getting tired, but she needed all her oxygen to keep up with her friends, so they didn't stand by her. Soon the merry chase ended in a dead end. The phoenix was surprised and looked around, considering its option. That moment of hesitation was enough for Raindrops to finally catch up and grab the unruly avian in her forehoofs. You're not going anywhere, you little twerp! She said. Her victory smirk was short-lived, as the phoenix in her hooves exploded into flames as she let go, yelping in pain. The fur on her forelegs was immediately singed black, as where she had held onto the winged arsonist. The phoenix was a cry that sounded awful lot like laughter. It flew around Raindrops' backside, letting another burst of flame roast her rump. The Pegasus quickly turned around and swung at the phoenix, but the little bird flew under her hoof and shot by her flank, adding another burnt mark right under her wing. This pattern repeated a few more times, each miss resulting in another black mark appearing somewhere on Raindrops' jasmine-colored coat. Trixie and Pokey stopped a few feet away, confused on how to process. Enough! Shouted Raindrops, running out of patience. This time she didn't hold anything back, and her forelegs swung true. Her hoof connected with the phoenix's little body and sent it shooting through the air like a bullet. The oran's body impacted loudly against the nearby wall, cracking the wall and slumping to the ground. Raindrops gasped in shock and dropped immediately to the ground, holding a hoof to her face. Panic, guilt, and fear all flashed across her face. Her ears flattened against her head, and tears were forming on the ends of her eyes. Oh no. 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 I didn't mean to. No. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to, she said, looking back and forth between the two unicorns and the bird. She took a few tentative steps towards the fallen phoenix, wishing the little bird were all right. Before she could reach it, though, flames suddenly consumed its body. In a matter of a second or two, all that was left was a pile of ashes. This development put a stop to Raindrop's guilt and fear, and replaced it with sheer confusion. Things only got worse when the ashes started to move of their own accord, flying and turning into a twister. In a flash, the ashes were replaced by a phoenix. It looked like the previous bird Raindrops had been chasing, but it was bigger, older, and more red over its wings and belly. Its beak looked somewhat oversized, but not quite as much. It also had a very angry sounding call. Oh, horse apples. Chapter 5. The bird was laughing. Raindrops could hardly believe it. The bird she thought she had killed in her rage was not only alive, not only bigger than before, but apparently was mocking her. At first, it had sounded like the angry cry of a haunting falcon, but then it broke into a series of sharp sounds. It was basically cackling, mocking her even. She had felt terrible what she had done, and the things she was concerned for now seemed to think the whole situation was a joke. The bird looked at her, and the gleam in the solid orbs that were its eyes sent shivers down to Pegasus' spine. The element of honesty backed away from the bird, still feeling heat radiating from it. She ended up bumping into Trixie and Pokey.
What is that thing?
She asked.
It's a phoenix. A flame-spouting bird that can rejuvenate itself by bursting into flames. It's practically immortal,
answered Trixie.
I think I hate this,
said Pokey. The phoenix began to wrap its wings and gain altitude. Raindrops gasped.
Trixie, use your magic to grab it!
The phoenix was still in range of Trixie's telekinesis. She reached out with her magic, and suddenly a blue shimmer halted the phoenix's ascension. It struggled in Trixie's telekinetic grip, making the unicorn groan. Suddenly, it stopped struggling, and instead sent a burst of flames outward. Trixie immediately howled in flame, feeling as if she had put her hoof on a storm.
It's burning my magic!
She gasped, retracting her telekinetic hold.
How is that even possible?
Trixie's shocked expression seemed to greatly amuse the bird, which resumed cackling. The phoenix finished laughing and suddenly shot up into the sky, leaving a small trail of embers in his wake. It got much faster, and Raindrops doubted she could catch up to it again, especially since he was still winded from the previous chase, while it seemed fresh as a daisy now. Still, that didn't mean she was going to let it go without trying. For now, she would have to keep her hosed if she wanted to rest her wings.
Don't let it out of your sight,
she declared, galloping out of the alley. Raindrops emerged from the alley and scanned the main street. She could see the phoenix flying down toward the center of town. She could already spot 2 balconies and a flower bed that had been set on fire. She was about to give chase when a voice called out to her.
Raindrops! Dude!
Came the unmistakable voice of Coconut. She turned to see the earth pony galloping alongside an older bright red Pegasus stallion. The Pegasus had a soft light green mane that was starting to turn gray on the sides, a big mushy mustache, and was wearing the unmistakable helmet and long-sleeved vest of a fire chief. His cutie mark showed 2 hose nozzles crossed over a flame.
T-Splasher, you're here! So, that's Ponyville's fire chief,
commented Trixie, as he came out of the alley right behind Pokey Pierce.
Yep, that's Red Splasher,
said her assistant, nodding. The fire chief landed in front of the trio and took a survey of the street ahead.
What in tarnation is going on, Raindrops? We got fires all over the town!
It's a phoenix, sir, explained Raindrops. I think it's burning stuff in town just for fun. At first, it was just a tiny bird, but when I attacked it, it burst into flame and reappeared stronger than before. Raindrops looked down on the ground. I couldn't stop it. The chief put a hoof on her shoulder.
Well, no use crying over spilt milk, girl. I'm going to need you for what's to come. I'll already send Cloud Kicker to ring the bell and call in everybody.
Just as he finished, a bell began to sound loud and clear. The sound was coming from the top of City Hall, and Trixie could see, if she squinted hard enough, the form of Cloud Kicker using a hammer to bang away at the bronze bell. The sound was frantic, and Trixie guessed this was a signal for all volunteers to get to work. Red Splasher turned to Coconut, a serious expression on his white face.
Son, me out with Martin order. I want your boys to get out of the bucket wagon, get as many civilians as you can, and start vacating some bucket lots. Tell Elf Worthy and Grits that I want them to put the boat wagon near City Hall 5 minutes ago.
He ordered.
Right on, Chief Dune,
declared the surfer pony before rushing away. Fire Pokey shook his head.
That boy hit me,
he said, as he surveyed the small fires near his current position. Already, ponies were taking care of them, but he could see smoke rising from other areas in town.
Let's go meet the other volunteers and by City Hall, and quickly.
Raindrops nodded. Right. See you later. Duty calls. Trixie and Pokey watched as the pair of Pegasi flew off. Trixie took off her hat and, with a quick flick, reverted it back to its normal form.
This is bad. I have no idea how to deal with a phoenix, she said.
Let's go help out, said Pokey. We can at least help with the bucket chain.
Trixie put her hat back on, looking deep in thought. Finally, she nodded, mostly to herself, and turned to Pokey.
You go ahead. I need to find some quill and parchment. I'll be there afterward.
Pokey looked confused as his boss galloped away.
Quill and parchment? What?
He shrugged it off and went in the direction of Town Hall. Trixie, in the meantime, was running down the street when a familiar yellow and orange shape appeared before her. She stopped a few inches short of running into the element of generosity, skating to a halt until she was almost muzzle to muzzle with her. She stared into Carrot Top's eye for a moment, panting with exhaustion, before blinking and stepping back. Trixie was blushing slightly in embarrassment, but the Earth Pony only looked perplexed. "Trixie, what's going on? I heard the fire pony pad," asked the confused carrot farmer, raising an eyebrow. "There's a phoenix loose on the town. It is already burning everything left and right," explained Trixie, waving a hoof in the general direction that the phoenix had flown toward. Carrot Top gasped, putting a hoof to her mouth. "That's terrible!" "You should go see the other farmers and warn them. So far, it's only attacked the town, but we don't know if it won't attack the farms next," said Trixie, sidestepping her friend so she could continue on her quest for a quill and parchment. "I gotta go grab some supplies, and then rush back to help with the bucket line." Trixie sighed. This was getting to be a really tiring day, and it was barely half done. "I'll do that. If the phoenix heads for the Harmland, try to force it toward the Sweet Apple Acres," replied Carrot Top with a nod. Trixie gasped, and her eyes seemed to grow in size. "I can't believe you just said that, see? You're making progress. I'm impressed," she said with a wink. Carrot Top furrowed her brow in confusion, and seemed to ponder what Trixie had just said. Finally, the meaning dawned on her, as she let out a gasp. "No, you got it all wrong!" she said in a panic, waving a hoof in front of her face. "Sweet Apple Acres is the only farm in town who can afford fire wards. The whole place is protected from fire by magical enchantments." Trixie seemed to sag. "Well, that's disappointing. I'll keep it in mind anyway. For now, I got to run. See you later." And with that, she took off again. When Pokey arrived near Town Hall, he found the fire chief hovering over the crowd, massed in a circular plaza surrounding it. Bright red glow on horn and hoof, barking orders left and right. The chief was no slouch when it came to organizing this chaos. Smoke could be seen at various points in town by now. The targets had to be organized according to their importance. The chance of the fire spreading in relation to the various sources of water in town.
"Pierce, get me some cloud cover and rain. I want to stay on as way as possible,"
the chief barked. Pokey could see Cloud Kicker, Lightning Bolt, and Raindrops being dispatched with some other Pegasi to grab Cloud.
"Let me take aside, catch up with the boys, and take those houses while they pump water. Everybody else, do the bucket lines."
Pokey could see a pair of Earth Ponies pull Ponyville's only pumping wagon away toward another part of town. The two mares ordered by the chief galloping in their direction. Already, volunteers and civilians working the bucket lines had extinguished 2 of the 3 smaller fires around City Hall. Pokey smiled at the nearest one and carried toward them. The cry of the phoenix could be heard in the distance.
"But when the stars make a bite, why is that giant fire hazard still open?"
As fire red splashed to no one in particular. Pokey glanced to see the Pegasus pointing to a hoof toward the hay bale. The hay bale was a restaurant that served nothing but hay-based food and drinks. Even the glasses of water had a few strands of hay instead of a lemon wedge to decorate them. The restaurant's orders had taken the theme to its extreme. Seats were piles of hay, tables were wagon wheels parsed on top of hay bales, and the roof and walls were covered in hay to give the impression of a building made of hay. Pokey knew the shop that used to stand there, and thus he knew that there were red bricks underneath it all. Red Splasher went to talk with the prim and proper waiting staff of the establishment. But Pokey couldn't hear, but it was clear the conversation was getting heated.
"I don't care, you Ponyville! You're gonna evacuate that restaurant now!"
bellowed the chief, as one of Hay Bale's slayers took an angry hoof in his direction. Pokey was about to join the bucket when the phoenix's cry came much closer. He heard some pony about to sound a cry of warning, and another claimed that the Hay Bale was doomed. The phoenix was visible in the sky above. It was making a wide turn, and apparently aiming to hug the curvature of the City Hall Plaza. Its wings and tail were trailing flames, embers falling like burning shooting star or trail or a deadlier kind of firework. By virtue of throwing himself horn first at random things, Pokey Pierce had developed a near decent sense of trajectory in ballistic. Maybe it's not much as a Pegasus would, but a quick glance at Chief Splasher confirmed his suspicions. The Phoenix's flight path was going to take it right around Town Hall and swing it right into the hay bale. It was coming into a dive at full speed.
"Oh, no, you don't, you flying varmint!"
growled the fire chief, and he placed himself right in the path of the flaming bird. Pokey wondered briefly where the oldest stallion had gotten the axe he was presently wielding, but decided not to bother too long. The unicorn stallion turned back toward the line of pony he was going to join, and, using his silvery telekinesis, grabbed hold of the bucket of water a slack-jawed Earth Pony mare had left on the ground at his hoof. With a grunt of effort, he threw the bucket of water with everything he could, right into the path of the incoming phoenix. The metal bucket flew, bottom first, and a comical noise hit the phoenix right in the head. The creature flung off course, losing control of its momentum. bounced off the ground a few times, completely missing the hay bale and sliding down a nearby street. For a second, Pokey hoped the creature had been knocked out. It had been lying on the ground for at least 10 seconds before the first onlookers began to tentatively approach it. The fire chief barked some more, ordering every pony to get back to work, and he too headed for the fallen avian. Then it opened its eyes. Its eyes were glowing with fury and flames alike, and rose to the sky in a mighty screech. This time, thought Pokey, this time it wasn't in the mood to laugh. Its burning glare turned to the nearest house, and it let loose a jet of flame that put any of its previous sparks to shame.
Horse apples!
Muttered Pokey. When Trixie, horribly sweating and out of breath, finally reached the plaza after her errand, she was met with a frightening sight. Thus on the other side of the plaza was a building engulfed in flames. Not just the balcony or flower pots burning, but the entire building was being devoured by the blaze. She heard a familiar screech and saw the phoenix encircling the column of dark smoke rising from the building. Lines of ponies were stretched between the steam that cut through the Ponyville all the way to the building and passing down buckets. A blaze that size could be stopped with simple buckets, but the ponies were doing their best to prevent it from spreading any further than that specific building. Pegasi, Raindrops included, were pressing clouds in the direction of the inferno. Trixie spied the bright red coat of Red Splasher and a familiar blue unicorn stallion to him. As the element of magic got closer to the building, she realized that the situation was more complicated than it looked. First was the wall of flames that seemed to ring the burning house, preventing any pony from getting closer to the building. And more importantly, was that as soon as the Pegasus had brought a cloud close enough, the Phoenix would just chase them off with a few blasts of flames. The cloud Raindrops was pushing was actually annihilated by such an attack. Trixie reached Pokey just as her Pegasus friend landed next to him. The unicorn was flowing water at the lawn between the two houses to prevent it catching on fire before passing its empty bucket deck down the line.
It's useless. Even if we try all at once, that thing can destroy clouds, so we barely get a few drops down,
she said, barely reined in anger in her voice.
I want to buck that thing's beak into next week, but...
You're afraid you'll just become stronger? Suggested Raindrops.
Trixie, there you are, said Pokey. Where were you?
Trixie was about to answer, but T-Splasher interrupted her.
Raindrops!
He called, making the mare stand at attention.
Standard methods aren't working. I need you to go get Cloud Kicker and Lightning Bolt and pull off that maneuver y'all been working on.
Raindrops gasped. But you said it was too risky. Red Splasher shook his head.
Ain't no time for caution, girl. Let's go,
he said, pointing a hoof skyward.
Right!
With that, she flew off.
Chief, did you recall the puppy wagon?
Well, asked Pokey, while he poured some more water into the ground.
No,
said the fire opponent.
This house is already a lost cause. All we can do is make sure it doesn't hurt any opponent.
Trixie had felt bad for the fire pony. A posting in this small town was probably meant as some sort of retirement for the older stallion, and yet here he was, making tough calls. She wanted to say something or to offer some help when there was a commotion not far from them. She looked over and recognized Coconut and Marching Owner, two ponies who she had at one point interviewed for the post of assistant before she hired Pokey Pierce. The two of them were holding back a hysterical green earth pony mare with a pink mane. The poor thing was sobbing and crying, trying to get past the two volunteer off ponies. A chill went down Trixie's spine, where she realized what the mare was saying. Red Splasher's day had been made even worse.
My son! She's so inside!
The fire chief galloped toward the situation.
Stay back, Lou. You can't go in there. No pony can make it through those flames.
By Luna stars, there has to be something we can do,
said Trixie, turning to her assistant. She found the stallion staring at the sobbing mother, with a steely resolve in his green eyes. Trixie had always known Pokey Pierce had a propensity towards grandiose gesture, but she had never grasped the full extent of his special brand of madness until he uttered the next phrase.
I could get through anything.
Muster in confusion, he then used his telekinesis and dumped a bucket full of water over his own head.
Wait, where are you?
Began Trixie, reaching a hoof toward her assistant. But it was already too late to stop him. With a burst of speed, he leapt over the wall of flame and galloped toward the front door of the burning house. The sound of roaring inferno doing little to cover the collected gas that went through the crowd of onlookers.
Pokey, you idiot! Get back here!
Cried the unicorn mare.
We'll think of something else!
Don't be a fool!
Added the fire chief. Pokey's horn began to glow, the aura around his horn floating outward over his body into a low spiral. He threw himself headfirst into the wooden door of the building. It broke right through it like it was made of cardboard. Just as he disappeared into the blaze, there was a loud crack, and debris blocked the doorway. Pokey! Chapter 6, last chapter. Trixie was panicking. She could hardly believe it. That idiot had jumped right into the inferno. Pokey Pierce, her loyal but irrelevant assistant, was suddenly grasped by a bout of hero syndrome and decided to endanger his life foolishly. She wanted to save the fool as much as he did, but they could come up with a much saner plan in 10 seconds. Trixie herself could have used her force field spell to enter safely, but now, after its ridiculous display, the entryway had collapsed. She looked frantically around, purposely ignoring the brisk and loud orders of the fire chief beside her, desperately trying to find something, anything to help her rescuing the fool and her grandstanding assistant. Maybe she gathered the other unicorns nearby, levitate a water tower, and dump it on the house. Cries of the Phoenix made her realize the bird would probably attack before that could happen. She briefly considered calling in the elements of harmony, but Pokey had the time to die 3 times before she could reach the schoolhouse and come back with Charlie. She also remembered she had sent Carrot Top to the various farms to warn them. How long would it take to track her down? Seconds felt like hours to Trixie, as she kept advancing into missing plans. Meanwhile, the volunteers had managed to extinguish a portion of the ring of flames. But that darn bird was way too aggressive to let them come much closer to the house itself. It was as if the Phoenix was mocking the futility of their actions. That's when the house of the wall of the house exploded. The wall of the second floor just blew outward as a shape, surrounded by spiraling silver magic, propelled itself out of the house. Every pony attendant stared in utter surprise as Pokey Pierce, with a little blue colt holding from dear life around his neck, jumped out of the house. Just like he had done with the door, his magic extended from his horn to protect the rest of his body. But this time, it seemed to spiral out in a much more impressive radius, giving him plenty of room to escape in style. Trixie quickly realized that Pokey would get hurt if he landed on his hooves from that height. She reached out with her telekinesis and grabbed his hooves as best as she could. A bead of sweat rolled down her forehead as she put everything she had into slowing the pair's descent. Finally, Pokey landed relatively softly, and she could let her hold go. The stallion quickly rested to the pleading mother. The 2 males' mane and tail were darkened by soot, and they had bird patches of fur all over. But on the whole, they seemed a good condition. "Mommy!" said the little colt, jumping into his mother's arms. "Sadie!" replied the earth-pounding mare, hugging her son for all he was worth, giving Pokey a tearful smile. "Oh, thank you, thank you! I don't know how I can ever repay you."
It was nothing, he replied,
before coughing. The little colt followed suit and began to cough. Nurse Redheart was beside the mother and colt in an instant, and to her urging, the pair entered the hospital. "You should go too, Mr. Pierce," she insisted.
He shook his head. "I'll go later. They might still need me."
The nurse rolled her eyes, but let it go. Trixie walked up to her assistant and gave him a slap on the behind the head. He looked at her in confusion.
"Oh, what was that for?"
"That was for being an idiot! If you held off for a few seconds, we could have come up with a better idea than to stab things!" she said angrily.
"You were worried about me,"
said Pokey, somewhat amused.
"That is so sweet."
Trixie's blushing face turned into a pout as he looked back to the burning house.
Of course I was. Who would do my paperwork?"
Trixie was saved from further embarrassment when Coconut and Marching Over came over. The tan Earth Pony Stallion congratulated the Unicorn on his tubular rescue, whatever that meant, and while the military Green Pegasus simply gave him a salute. Once Red Splasher decided to interrupt the moment, he cantered her out to Trixie.
"You do losers, right?"
he asked her, without letting her answer.
"I need you to strike that darn bird with some flasher stuff. The girls are ready to go."
Trixie raised an eyebrow.
"Sure I can, but what do you mean by ready?"
Red Splasher pointed a hoof to a part of the sky behind her. She turned to look and saw Lightning Bolt, Cloud Kicker, and Raindrops adding a few more tufts of cloud to a giant formation. The thing was about the size of a house.
"Can they even move that thing?"
the Unicorn asked. Trixie almost missed the small smirk that flashed on the Fire Chief's feature, so obscured it was by his bushy mustache.
"Trust me, I can. Just dance on that thing."
Trixie pushed up the brim of her hat to get a better display of her horn. Then she replied with a confident grin of her own.
"Dazzle. My dear Fire Chief, the great and powerful Trixie doesn't dazzle. She mesmerizes.
Trixie missed Fred's flasher and Pokey rolling their eyes, because then she stood on her hind legs, cape flaring out and pointing her sparkling horn towards the flying creature, now hovering above the blaze. Sparks of white, blue, and purple loudly interrupted the pace incessant around the phoenix, constantly turning up its path wherever it tried to flee. The fire chief gave a signal to his Pegasi team, and Trixie risked returning to get a glance at the action. She was very curious to see the thing supposedly risky Raindrops was about to form. To her surprise, she saw her Pegasus friend shoot upward at an angle, away from the cloud bank and toward the burning house. As she looked back to the cloud bank, she saw Cloud Kicker turn around and buck the cloud with both legs. At that moment, Trixie understood why she got that name, and why her cutie mark was a cloud moving behind the glaring sun. Because the entire cloud bank flew forward at a surprising speed. Before the Phoenix could recover from her firework assault, the massive cloud ended right above it. That's when Raindrops gave her a wing-powered push and drove giant hose first toward it, at a speed exceeding terminal velocity.
Take this, bird brain!
Shouted the Jasmine Pegasus, just as he disappeared behind the cloud. In the space of a second or less, the entire cloud, which had been white and calm so far, turned completely gray, with a subtle rumbling sound. Raindrops emerged from its underside, and dove both of her hooves into the Phoenix, just as she flared her wings with expert timing. The impact caused all of her momentum to transmit it to her target. Like a bullet, the creature crashed through into what remained of the thatched roof house below, disappeared to the inferno. A second later, the dark cloud seemed to crack open and pour all of its water content, dressing the house and almost instantly dousing the flames. Raindrops stood under the rain with a deservedly big grin on her face. The torrential downpour didn't last long, but it was enough to turn the dirt beneath Trixie's hooves into mud. With a series of creaking sounds, the battered house finally gave up. Damaged by the fire, Pokey's assault on its walls, and finally the intense downpour, it just couldn't stand up anymore. The blackened wood cracked, and the building collapsed on itself. Luckily, no debris landed much more than a few paces from the former house.
That was impressive,
said Trixie.
No fooling,
added Pokey. A smirking Raindrops landed in front of the unicorns and Red's flasher.
Fire has been explosively suppressed.
That was a pretty darn good field test, girl. But you should have attacked that bird, or you could have fallen down with it,
said the fire chief with a parental tone.
Don't worry, Chief. That was a technique I learned while studying Ironhoof. I wasn't going to follow it, explained Raindrops. Have you ever actually tried that move before?
Asked Trixie, raising an eyebrow. Raindrops looked away and bit her flaring lip. Well, we were field testing something in the first place.
Not that that wasn't a very cool display of rain-making techniques,
began Pokey Pierce.
But what about the Phoenix? If you killed it with that crass, it's going to revive again.
Raindrops waved a hoof in dismissal. It can resurrect all at once. I'd like to see it try to dig its way out of that pile. That's when the beam of golden light erupted from the remains of the building, sending splinters of burnt wood and other miscellaneous debris rain down on the area, causing every pony present to take a step back. Trixie had to put a hoof to her face.
You had to tempt fate!
With a loud screech, the Phoenix flew up from the hole and hovered above the ruined building. It was once again bigger than before, now almost completely red, save for some of its primary feathers, its tail, and most of its face. It flapped its wings once and became engulfed in an orb of light. It was like a miniature sun had risen above Ponyville. Beams of the golden light shot outward at random, and everything those birds touched suddenly caught on fire.
This is bad! Really bad! Someone tell me, please! Somebody tell me that someone has a plan!
Said Pokey, looking absolutely terrified.
I don't know!
Replied Raindrops, terrified, but somewhat more stoical about it.
We need a miracle of this point!
Added Chief Splatzer, in awe at the creature's power. Trixie was about to say something, when a familiar dark mist flew through the air toward the golden orb of flaming death.
Philomena Equestrius! Stop right now!
Said Princess Luna as she materialized. Almost immediately, the ball of golden light vanished, and the Phoenix hung its head down like a truant foal that had been caught doing something bad. Princess Luna hovered there, looking at it with an angry scowl on her regal face.
Bad bird, Philomena! How many times do I have to tell you ponies aren't fireproof? Your pranks are not funny! continued the princess. Trixie and the others could only stare in awe and confusion, and the phoenix that had terrified them seemed to shrink before the withering gaze of the ruler. Trixie couldn't hear, but she guessed the phoenix had given the princess some sort of answer, because Luna continued her dressing down. That's no excuse, missy! I know you, Philomena. You probably started it. Besides, you're supposed to be grounded for 2 more centuries because of last time. Who let you out? Arr! Once again, the phoenix immediately answered. Well, Tia isn't in charge anymore. I am, and I say you will still have 2 more centuries. Now, you're going back into that cave, and if I see you out before those centuries are done, you will be in big trouble. The phoenix just nodded and began to fly away. The princess flew to intercept it. Now, hold on a minute. I want you to apologize to these nice ponies first, and be glad I'm not giving you extra time off for all the trouble you caused. Princess Luna and the Phoenix, Philomena, landed in front of Trixie's little group. They all stared at the creature, not sure what to expect. The bird let out a few squawks that, when strung together, sounded vaguely like it was trying to say, I'm sorry. The pony stood in silence, staring at the bird for what felt like a minute or two. Apologies accepted? Polly said Raindrops, unsure how to respond. Now, you can go, said Luna, apparently placated, as he teleported Philomena away. What just happened? Asked Trixie. Princess Luna closed her eyes and sighed. Philomena used to be, and I guess she still is, the royal pet. Well, she was always more so my sister's, but I stepped in to take her after blasting Corona into the sun. She has a very bad habit of playing pranks involving fire. It's all fun and games until Trotting hammers butt to the ground. So I had to punish her by stealing her away to teach her a lesson. Raindrops blinked it a few times. Those were pranks? Not at the end. Philomena also tends to burn things when she's angry, said the princess, shaking her head. Princess Luna surveyed the damage caused by the wayward pet, and saw all the fire still burning all over. Her horn glowed, and a wave of dark blue light washed over the entire town, extinguishing every leftover blaze in an instant. I'll personally make sure the family who lost their hound will get a new home. Trixie, please forward any other damage claims directly to my office. I will take full responsibility, she said. I will, Princess, said Trixie, smiling at her mentor. It's nice to see you again, regardless of circumstances. I didn't expect you to come personally. Princess Luna bent her head down to give a student a subtle nuzzle. It's nice to see you as well, Trixie. I would have normally come, however, when I found your note asking about how to deal with a rogue phoenix. I quickly checked Philomena's prison. I was so surprised to find it breached. Philomena is no regular phoenix, you see. She is much more older than any other, and is, in a fashion, related to regular phoenix in the same way I am related to regular ponies. There was no choice but to intervene personally. Red Splaster walked up to his ruler and bowed before speaking up.
It's an honor to meet you in person, your majesty. This here stallion,
he pointed to Pokey,
did something really brave today. It was fools and dangerous, but still brave. He was sent right into that burner house to go slave a fool. I think he deserves a medal.
Pokey paused to look away.
You don't have to, your majesty. I was just doing what I felt was right.
It is my experience.
And in my experience is quite long. That is what all heroes say. I think your heroism does deserve some recognition. Be sure to keep an eye on your mailbox. Trixie nudged her sister with her elbow. Don't get too excited. I bet it won't be anywhere near as cool as mine.
You mean the one you sleep with?
Replied Pokey with a smirk. Trixie blushed and stammered. How do you even know that?
I didn't. I just figured that was the only reason you didn't display in your office, said Pokey, a satisfied grin on his face. You totally fell for my bluff.
Even Princess Luna had trouble holding back her laughter at Trixie's annoyed expression. Corona stared daggers at the diamond dog. What art thou doing sitting there? The canine creature looked on surprise. Me and my break. Contract saying we get 10 minutes after 2 hours of work. Corona closed her eyes and gritted her teeth. We, that is, I know the contract I have passed with your union by heart. The question is, what art thou doing sitting on my throne? The diamond dog suddenly realized he was sitting on the golden throne. He had been ordered to pause and quickly jumped off, quickly sitting down on the stairs leading up to it instead.
Corona rolled her eyes at the pathetic creature. She had hired these diamond dogs to cover a new palace out of a sheer rock cliff. After a month or so in the dragon's cave, she yearned for something bigger, grander, and more fitting of a queen, and her minions had found her a wonderful volcano crater to inhabit. It had been a tad annoying to find that diamond dogs had unionized since he had last dealt with them, but she had gems to spare, and they were excellent rock carvers, so she had endured their quirky notions of working conditions and task descriptions. She also had an obsessive need to hide where they got their gems from, thus inserting Corona a secretive workforce that wouldn't blab about her location. Corona went and inspected two large circular pits that had been dug into the floor of her throne room. After about a few stories, the two shafts opened into a main magma chamber of the volcano. The two pits had been adorned with mirrors to better reflect the glow of the hot lava below, bathing the entire room in hues of red and orange. They also made for some nifty trash disposal. Expertly carved stones adorned a sun ray pattern circled each pit, turning them into the center of two large sun emblems. Corona was running a hoof along the surprisingly delicate work when Sakura entered the throne room and bowed low to the ground. Her dragon companion quickly followed and gave his nominal master a quick but insecure curtsy.
From your spiders I bring, I'm afraid Ponyville has stopped burning, she said, producing a scroll.
What? How is that possible? Asked the mad alicorn, grabbing a hold of the scroll with her white telekinesis. She unfurled the scroll and scanned over the message with blank eyes. Once he was done, she incinerated the scroll while growling in frustration. Corona stomped her hoof on the floor, cracking the tile below. How dare my sister order around my pet! It is not fair! Philomena is my pet! Mine! She closed her eyes and took a deep breath, schooling her feature before a tantrum could get the best of her. Spike smirked. Guess that's what happens when you set a pet to do your own work. Corona glared his way, and in a glow of white telekinesis, she unceremoniously threw him down one of her lava pits. She had discovered not too long ago that the little dragon was lava-proof, and found throwing him down into the magma pit was a most satisfying stress relief. There was a strange impact noise, and the diamond dog hobbled over the edge of the pit. Seed winced in pain. Ugh, belly flop. Not good. You must hurt. Exceedingly satisfying stress relief. It was a few hours later, and the sun was already setting over Ponyville, when Trixie finally sprawled down on her sofa. Raindrops and Pokey were likewise lazing on their back on the thick plush carpet and couch. All three of them sported traces of soot and mud. Pokey and Raindrops also had multiple patches of burnt fur. After Princess Louis returned to Canterlot, the trio helped clear out what was left of the burnt house, as well as help out all over town with some temporary repair. They were all terribly exhausted after their crazy day. My everything aches, complained Trixie. I feel pain in muscles I didn't even know I had.
You just need to work out more,
said Pokey. You two don't look so hot either, replied Trixie, barely pointing a hoof at him. We're just tired. It's not the same, said Raindrops, looking at Trixie with half-lidded eyes. Trixie couldn't think of anything smarter to reply than, oh yeah? That was when a knock came at the door. Trixie saw a pleading look at Pokey and Raindrops. The stallion rolled his eyes, and with a sigh rolled back to his hose. He went to open the door.
Inspector Audit, did you come to see those files we talked about earlier? She heard Pokey say. Of course she's in. She's resting in the living room.
The two stallions arrived in the living room, and Trixie managed to at least sit down and greet the bureaucrat, though it pained her to do so. Hello, Inspector, she managed to say.
Representative Lunaverse,
He replied in greeting.
I was impressed by the heroism I've witnessed today, and your dedication to the town. Not many representatives were turning their hooves like I've seen you do today after the incident. And you, Mr. Pierce, were quite impressive. I understand why your employer endures you somewhat. Unconventional behavior.
Trixie was a bit confused by her change of opinion. Thanks?
I haven't lived such a terrifying day since the event of last August night. All that fire and confusion, it will certainly be firing. Tell me, is life in Ponyville only this exciting?
Asked the inspector. Trixie sighed. You don't know the half of it.
Oh my,
replied Serious-eyed, ears flattening.
If you are constantly attacked by minions of the Tyrant Sun, it is no wonder you are in constant need of repairs.
Trixie was about to tell him that this was actually the first real attack since the escape of the Tyrant Sun, when another idea popped in her head. It was time for the great and powerful Trixie to take the stage. She glanced over to Raindrops and was happy to see the Pegasus had apparently dozed off. Then she saw Pokey a wink. "Oh, yes! It is so terrible!" she said, making an effort to get off the sofa and stand up. "We've had to deal with griffin attacks, fend off a pack of Ursa Majors, Ursa Minors, contend with an insane Pied Piper pony leading that parasite swarm, and even an evil magical clone of our own weather captain!" Onett raised an eyebrow.
Clone.
Trixie put a hoof to her forehead and sighed as if the weight of the world was on her shoulder. "Oh, yeah, poor Miss Rainbow Dash. So nice and friendly. Has an evil clone who was sent by Corona to do nothing but pester and harass us with her mean-spirited pranks. Miss Rainbow Dash is the fastest pony in town, and thus no one can catch up to her evil clone. It constantly returns, and we can do very little to stop it, since it never tells us directly. It is the source of all those rainbow-related incidents you might find under wild weather pattern."
The stallion gasped in shock.
That sounds mighty serious. I understand why you and Princess Luna are keeping those events a secret from the public. Should word get out that the tyrant's son is supplying such message, why, it would cause widespread panic.
Trixie nodded a little too energetically for her aching neck. "Indeed, my dear Inspector. Every pony in Ponyville is bravely putting up with all those attacks for the sake of peace of all of Equestria. Sadly, while we can't even let a single quirk in Carolot know those events, we still require the fun for the victims."
Serious Eye put a hoof to his mouth and looked deep in thought.
I can't conduct a full investigation under these circumstances, and I fear I might get in the way of dealing with the recent crisis.
Trixie wrapped a hoof around his shoulder and slowly led him towards the door. "Why don't you head back to Canterlot then? I'll have Pokey send you copies of those files you were talking about earlier today, and then you'll be able to tell the officials that everything is fine in Ponyville. Tell them that the Everfree Forest is acting more chaotic than usual, due to the return of the tyrant's son, obviously, and take a day off or two afterward," she continued, opening the door with her telekinesis. "After all, you just had a terrifying day. You truly deserve some calm and quiet."
Onett seemed to consider before nodding agreement.
It does sound like a good idea, Representative Lunamoon, but Viscount Blueblood sent me a note telling me he might be sending some more revenant files addressed to my temporary office at Town Hall.
Don't worry about it. If those documents come, I'll be sending them along with copies of our files. Just make sure you don't mention Ponyville's secret.
Of course I won't. I would not dare render useless all the brave sacrifices the folks in this town had to do for the sake of everybody else. Have a nice evening, Representative Lunamoon, and I hope we meet again in a more pleasant situation.
And with that, he was gone. Trixie closed the floor. With this little farce, Ponyville wouldn't be suspected of fraud, at least for the moment, and Blue Blood's incriminating document would never reach serious audit. Blue Blood would never raise any fuss about it, because it would mean admitting to those that in the know that Trixie had bested him. Of course, there was the possibility of him releasing those documents again, but after the report the audit was about to submit, those files would be thoroughly checked, and any sign of tampering would be noticed, meaning not only would the originals could work, Blue Blood couldn't release the originals, as they would incriminate his own family in the Rainbow Dash scam. She let out a sigh of relief. She was surprised to hear a slow hoof stomp from behind her. Her assistant, who stood silent during the little act, was giving her a genuine smile.
"That was an impressive display of fast talk. Didn't think you could keep it up until the end."
Trixie gave him a little pout. "It was nothing. It's not like I'm a complete idiot, you know."
Pokey chuckled. "So does this mean you admit to being a partial idiot?"
Trixie groaned in frustration. I'll just take the fact that
you're not denying it as admittance,"
Pokey said simply, walking back into the living room. "What? Get back here!" shouted Trixie, countering after him. "Shut up! I am trying to nap here!" cried Raindrops. And so thus we come to the end of Philomena's appearance. And right now I'm trying to remember if on the Lunaverse we are actually going to introduce Tiberius. Oh, cute little possum. You go play with Luna right now. Anyway, Anyway, I really do like this little episode. Mainly because, not because Trixie's, we see more of Trixie's intelligence, cunning, and snarkiness, which is going to come and play into the fic hero button. But, and this also served to show Raindrops' skills, but because Pokey was just dang awesome. I love his snarkiness, and I love his quick wit.
I also loved seeing how much he actually interacted with Trixie and made a pretty excellent foil for her. Those two played off really well against one another, and I love it. It just makes their relationship a little bit different than, say, Twilight's relationship with Spike. You know, a brother-sister type of relationship, or more if you could see it that way. I mean, who knows? If this was a natural show, I bet you anything the Pokey and Trixie fix would be through the roof. I also love the use of Philomena. Playful and pranky, but boy was she quick to anger. An overall fun and short episode. Next time, though, well, let's see what we got for us. Carrot Top? Ah, a beautiful day, a beautiful sun, and... What is with that? Bunny! You get back here! Why is that angel always messing with me? And why doesn't Frizzy come out more? I swear, I'm going to have a nice talk with her. Rainbow Dash, why aren't you letting me in? What's wrong with Fluttershy? Next time on the Lunaverse, Carrot Top of the Line. I'll see you there.